The U.S. government shut down, and per usual, Trump and his MAGA base are desperately trying to make everyone think that it's the Democrats' fault. But let's remember that the GOP has a Republican president and a Republican majority in both the House and the Senate.
Democrats don't want people to get fired, and Democrats don't want people to lose their health care. But I think the Republican Party is trying to act like they have the upper hand, and they just don't on the merits. First of all, 45% of Americans would blame them versus 32% that would blame the Democrats. And we saw what happens when you give Republicans the votes. We did that in March, and they have governed by and for themselves. They think they don't have to negotiate, when typically on these kinds of things, on CRs, you do that because you don't have the 60 votes to do it.
I hear the polls. I hear what you're saying, but this is kind of simple. You know, this is a plain
but it's not because
continuing resolution.
But it's a clean resolution inclusive of these cuts. And there are smart Republicans like a Josh Hawley, even Senator Thune has said that he's been concerned about this. When you look at what's going to happen with 114% hikes on these ACA premiums, that affects Democrats just as much as Republicans. And there are a lot of Republicans on Obamacare.
But the real reason that Republicans want to shut down the government is so that they can do whatever they want and that you don't have to see your benefits. I mean, Trump is literally saying it out loud.
We can do things during the shutdown that are irreversible, that are bad for them and irreversible by them, like cutting vast numbers of people out, cutting things that they like, cutting programs that they like. And you all know Russell Vought. He's become very popular recently because he can trim the budget to a level that you couldn't do any other way. So they're taking a risk by having a shutdown because of the shutdown, we can do things medically and other ways, including benefits. We can cut large numbers of people up.
Which is honestly the most coherent thing he said lately.
And I'm not a fan of some of the ships you do. I'm a very aesthetic person, and I don't like some of the ships you're doing aesthetically. They say, oh, it's stealth. I said, that's not stealth. An ugly ship is not necessary in order to say you're stealth. By the way, the B-2 bombers were incredible. That is stealth. They went into that. I was...
What?
And I told Pete, we should use some of these dangerous cities as training grounds for our military, National Guard, but military. Because we're going into Chicago very soon. That's a big city with an incompetent governor, stupid governor, stupid.
Well, look, the president's an idiot. He doesn't actually understand how the military works.
Who disappears at Raising Cane is no good. Just raise your hand. Actually, I love my signature. I really do. Everyone loves my signature. We used to sign our piece of garbage. I said, this man's going to be a general, right? Yeah.
Cuckoo. The president is unhinged. He is unwell. What are you doing?
A lot of folks on your side are too. I don't control.
Oh my God, please. That performance in front of the generals, that is so dangerous. You know I serve on foreign affairs and appropriations. This is a collision of those two things. Our allies are looking elsewhere. Our enemies are laughing.
I just left
you have a president who is unwell.
And just to be clear, the last time the government shut down was 6 years ago under Donald Trump, and he didn't just do it once, he did it twice. First for 3 days in 2018, and then for a record 35 days from December 2018 into January 2019, burning through $5 billion in the process. So if my count is correct, 1, 2, yes, 3 times Trump has now pulled off a hat trick, which is ironic considering that Trump said this about presidents being responsible.
First question, Donald, we're having a hell of a time trying to negotiate here in Washington. So tell me, if you were president, what would you do?
Well, very simply, you have to get everybody in a room. You have to be a leader. The president has to lead. I hear the Democrats are going to be blamed and the Republicans are going to be blamed. I actually think the president would be blamed. If there is a shutdown, I think it would be a tremendously negative mark on the president of the United States. He's the one that has to get people together.
They're not going to be talking who the head of the House was, the head of the Senate, who's running things in Washington. So I really think the pressure is on the president.
Now, considering Trump's past comments, you'd think that as president, he would do everything in his power to prevent a government shutdown. And by everything, I mean absolutely nothing, because that's what he did. Nothing. Trump was too busy posting racist AI videos.
Not even black people want to vote for us anymore. Even Latinos hate us. So we need new voters. And if we give all these illegal aliens free health care, we might be able to get them on our side so they can vote for us. They can't even speak English, so they won't realize we're just a bunch of woke pieces of shit.
Instead of working on a resolution and leading like a president should, he decided to double down by posting another racist AI video just before the government shutdown took place.
It's a disgusting video, and we're going to continue to make clear bigotry will get you nowhere.
We are fighting to protect the health care of the American people in the face of an unprecedented Republican assault.
Trump thinks that he's trolling Democrats when really he's hurting millions of Americans who rely on the government and its programs. I mean, shit, I'm in another country right now, and thanks to Trump's government shutdown, who knows what kind of mess I'm going to be dealing with when I fly back in. This is no different than when Trump took pride in Jimmy Kimmel's suspension and the hundreds of Americans who lost their job during that show's hiatus. Trump is a bully looking for praise, and his approach does nothing to get us a resolution or help protect everyday Americans. Not that the GOP were actually focused on doing that to begin with.
Let me ask you about President Trump. He had another deepfake video overnight. How does that help the cause of getting a deal and opening the government?
Look, the president uses social media for humor. He makes jokes. He does lots of things. What the president did in showing leadership, though, 2 days ago, was he brought in Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries to meet with me and Leader Thune in the Senate to try to work this out. He gave them unlimited time they had in the Oval Office, and they would not come to the table to do exactly, George, what they themselves have said repeatedly over and over and over.
Trump did not bring Jeffries and Schumer into the Oval Office to work this out like Johnson claims. This was all a big joke so Trump could use this photo. Instead of trying to work on a resolution, this moron-in-chief was busy serving Diet Coke and placing Trump 2028 hats in the Oval Office.
When he tried to hand you that Trump 2028 hat, what was your reaction?
Well, actually, he did not try to hand Leader Schumer and I the Trump 2028 hat. They just randomly appeared in the middle of the meeting on the desk. It was the strangest thing ever. And I just looked at the hat, looked at J.D. Vance, who was seated to my left, and said, "Don't you got a problem with this?" And he said no comment.
This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Don't miss any of the excitement this football season on PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. Not gonna lie, I've been cleaning up pretty well on PrizePicks this year. This week, I'm looking at the board and selecting Patrick Mahomes for more than 2 passing touchdowns. PrizePicks is simple to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. Play PrizePicks to get action on football in more than 40 plus states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. PrizePicks is the only app that offers stacks, meaning you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. Want to pick more on Josh Allen's pass yards, rush yards, and touchdowns? Now you can pick all of them in the same lineup only on PrizePicks. Follow other PrizePicks players directly on the app and copy their lineups in 1 click. Whether it's a friend, a celebrity partner, or just someone whose picks you like, hit the follow button and check out every lineup they create in the new feed tab on PrizePicks. On PrizePicks, how you play is up to you. If you want flexibility, choose FlexPlay, where you can get paid even if one of your picks misses. And if you want the biggest payouts, go for the power play. No matter your play, PrizePicks is a great way to put your takes to the test. PrizePicks puts their users first, so all withdrawals are fast and secure. PrizePicks offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this football season. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code Sanchez to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code Sanchez to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. And then J.D. Vance went on Fox News to laugh it off even more.
President Trump, he shared some pictures from the Oval Office meeting with Chuck Schumer and with Hakeem Jeffries, with Speaker Johnson and with Thune. And we wanted to ask you about any insight into that meeting, because the last shutdown, Mr. Vice President, was 35 days. Americans can't go, here are the pictures, Americans cannot go that long without getting a paycheck or being furloughed. So can you give us some insight into what they talked about, maybe how we can come to a compromise?
And the hats, the Trump trolling them with 28 hats.
Yeah, thank you, Lawrence. That's the most important part. There were also the Trump 2028 hats, which I think made the majority or the minority leader in both the House and the Senate very uncomfortable.
Instead of taking this shutdown seriously, Fox News hosts are laughing it off from their huge set in New York City as they get paid 6-figure salaries to talk about stupid shit. The Republican Party is busy trying to point the finger at Democrats, even though it's the GOP's actual policies and positions that are the root of the shutdown.
Mike Johnson and J.D. Vance
until the end of the year. So you fund the government.
Enough
and
with
then you
this.
and then you argue
who's
the point.
to say that they're going to sit down and negotiate with us afterwards? They came out of that meeting. Trump is posting racist AI videos saying, I don't need to deal with them at all. Mike Johnson, J.D. Vance are lying about what Democrats are asking, saying we want to fund health care for illegals, which is impossible and doesn't happen. That it is impossible. They're saying they want to cut $50 billion from rural hospitals. They took $137 billion out and then gave us back $50 billion and said that it's our problem.
They keep trying to push this idea that immigrants are evil and that Democrats are trying to ruin America with illegals, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Despite what the Republican Party claims, the Democrats' proposal does not include free health care for illegal immigrants.
The Democrats' proposal is designed to prevent millions of Americans from losing their health insurance, losing Medicaid coverage, or paying higher health care premiums. Why are you against that?
That's an absurd statement, what you said there. Let's be clear about what happened last night, George.
Here are the facts. The proposal does not provide health care for illegal immigrants. Illegal immigrants cannot buy health care under the Affordable Care Act. They cannot receive health care subsidies.
No.
Illegal immigrants are ineligible for Medicare, Medicaid, and the Children's Health Program. The Democratic bill does not make them eligible.
Democrats are fighting to extend Affordable Care Act subsidies that would expire at the end of the year. And if those go, it'll actually hurt many people from the GOP's base.
Awkward.
Thanks for watching What Was That? If you want more episodes, articles, and breakdowns, go to whatwasthat.show. Join the community and become a paid subscriber today. It's just me behind the scenes, so every bit of support really makes a difference. And if you'd rather listen on the go, you can find What Was That on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your shows. Until next time, I'm Gabe Sanchez, and this has been What Was That?